The final piece is that sometimes we have more than just composition going on. Sometimes there can be multiplication or division as well. So here are going to be general instructions. For each function, define the functions that have been multiplied, divided, or composed, and rewrite the right side of the equation using function notation. So these are the same directions as we were doing earlier. It's just now we're going to have some slightly more complicated equations. So for our first one, let's do y equals 3x sine x. Now, first thing we're going to look for is box functions. But if you notice, this just has x in it, and this is not a box. However, something's clearly going on here, because 3x and sine x, there's two different variables in there, and it sure looks like they're being multiplied together. This is really y equals 3x times sine of x. Notice that that multiplication symbol is not necessarily written. It's sort of invisible. It's kind of implied. So what that means is it means we can just have these two separate little functions. Let's say this is just the one on the right. Let's call it whatever we want. H of x, q of x, g of x, f of x, anything. Let's go for q of x. And we have this other one over here. Let's call it m of x. Really does not matter what these are called. Anything you want. So that's part of our answer, so I'm going to circle or put a box around that. And those are multiplied together. So what we're going to say is we're going to say that q of x times m of x is going to give us 3x sine x. Which makes a great deal of sense. 3x times sine x, lo and behold, 3x sine x. Let's do another one of those. Y equals 3 x squared plus 3x minus 1 squared over sine of x. Well, notice here we pretty clearly have some division. So why don't we just take this one over here, just for starters. We've got a bottom. Clearly something equals sine of x. Let's call it n of x, just for kicks. This part up here now, we can see we do have a box function. There's this squared here. And so that means that up here we do have an outside, which is 3 box squared, so let's call that f. And we also clearly have an inside function. X squared plus 3x minus 1 is what's in the box. Notice again we do have a box function here, but there's only x, so it doesn't need its separate function. Okay, so we've got three little pieces broken down. Now we just have to say how they go together. We can clearly see, here's our function, it's 3x squared plus 3x minus 1 squared over sine x. We can clearly see that this denominator, sine of x, is this n of x piece right here. Up on top we can see we have an outside function, that's f, and an inside function, that's g. So what we should have here is we should have this g of x gets put into the f of x. That gives us 3x squared plus 3x minus 1 quantity squared. That's our numerator, whole numerator. And then divided by n of x, or sine of x. One last problem. Let's do a check for understanding. Let's make our function y equals 10x e to the cosine of x. Go ahead, pause the video. Okay. So what we see here is I do see a box function, but I also see this part right in front that's being multiplied times e to the x. So I'm going to put in the little multiplication symbol right here, and I'm just going to separate these two pieces. So over here we've got, let's call it q of x again. That equals 10x. Then that's being multiplied by the stuff over here that's got all our box functions. So outside, got e to the box, f of x equals e to the x, and then inside, cosine of x. Notice that this is a box function, but there's only x, so it doesn't need to go any further. G of x equals cosine of x. So that means that with this function 10x e to the cosine of x, that can be written using function notation as q of x times, we have an outside and an inside, so that's f of g of x.